At the end of this tutorial, you will be able to understand the concept of auto increment and you will be able to implement it on your tables. I have my databases rating app and I have this users 6 table. In the previous tutorial, we saw primary keys, so we are gonna continue over here, right? If you haven't learned about primary key, you can go back and learn how it works, right? So as of now, my dating app database is in use and I want to describe user 6 table first. So let's execute it. Here you will be seeing user id int and it is primary key, and primary keys are always not nullable, right? Username and email, these are varchar. So I want to insert some value over here. Usually what happens in while we submit some form, like if we take admission in any of the institute, we used to fill up some form, and there we don't fill up the id there, right? User id or the unique student id we don't fill, it automatically generates, right? But the head of the institutes or the counselors, they or workers of the institute, they don't manually assign the prime you the ids, for an example, right? So how this automatically generates, this is that particular concept, or they how they used to or the backend or SQL automatically adds the primary key or integers to that. So this is that particular concept. So here, let me try to insert something. Insert into users 6, right? We wanna add name and email values. Let's say I wanna add user 2 and email as user 2 at the rate someone.com, right? Let me try to execute it and we will see what happened, because we haven't assigned the value for user id, which is primary key, and this is not nullable and we are not passing the value of it. What will happen? See, this has given us the error field user id doesn't have a default value as this is a primary key, right? So what will happen? Usually any user does not provide any id, because this query inserts when you provide some value in the ui or the user interface while filling up some kind of form. So internally what actually happens here? So what happens, there is a reason we set up this column to be auto increment, because the user who is gonna fill up these values usually using the forms won't know what id needs to be filled here, and without filling this field it won't proceed as it will give error. Hence we set up it as auto increment. So to refine this issue, we used to assign auto increment to this primary key. So hence here let's create another table. Create table, maybe employees, right? Here we will assign some values. Let's say employee id, which would be in integer format and it will be primary key, right? And we want to just like, okay, let me just give it users 7, and here let's give it user id, right? So to resolve this issue, we will apply auto increment here, right? Then we will have some other value as name, which would be maybe varchar, which would be like 75 maybe. Then we would be having email as maybe varchar, which is 100, and we just want these many columns only. Let's execute it. The table is created. Now let's describe this table. Describe users 7. So this will be user ID, which is integer, primary key not nullable, and it is auto increment. Right, now let me try to insert something into it with same way. Right, let me try to insert into users 7. We have, let's assign in normal way user ID. Here let me assign it 1. Right, so user 1 may be 1 and this is 1. Now let me insert it. It is inserted, and let me try to show you the records which is inserted. Users 7. Let us try to execute it, which is id 1, user 1, and this email. Now let me try to, if I don't try to give this user ID here, what will happen now in case of auto increment? In primary key it would give you error. So before this, here when we were trying to insert without id in user 6 table, it gave you error. Right, now in case of auto increment I am doing the same thing. So a name is like, a name of the people can be same, like Akanksha Gupta and then Akanksha Agarwal. Username is same, first name is same, or Akanksha Gupta and Akanksha Gupta users name could be same, but they are two different people. Right, so there would be same name but they are two different people and their id will be different. So this rectifies that uh, issue. This time this query will execute successfully. Right, now I will again showcase the records present in user 7 table. What it will show? It will show you automatically it has added user id 2 with same name and different email. So this is what we have given. So user id 1, username 1, and user 1 at the rate someone.com we gave. Then we gave user 1 and user 2 at the rate someone.com. So this 2 id 2 is automatically incremented from the first value. So this is how you fill up the form with this value and it generates this way. Right, so if I try to execute multiple times, one time, second time, third time, fourth time, and if I try to execute it now, so what it will do? It will add these many same values but with different IDs. This is how your roll numbers are generated or IDs are generated. This is how auto increment works. But you should note it that in primary key we don't have any we don't have any underscore present here, but in case of auto increment we have this underscore. Right, if you see, so this is you should keep this in mind, how we write auto increment, how do we write primary key, and what how do we write other constants we will be learning. Right, so this is the difference. Now there is one other way to add auto increment. So the syntax but the resultant will be same. So in here in this case we don't really need to keep the track of this id column. Now it will automatically keep inserting a insert incremented value on every insert as we see here in this table. Right, now let's try some different way of doing auto increment. How? I will be creating some different table now. Create table, maybe users. Let me refresh it. User 7. Let's try with user 8. Now we have again user ID, which is in integer, and this is primary key, right? Then we have name column, which is varchar, and it is 75. Now we have email, which is varchar, which is 100, right? Now I wanna define auto increment to this. We can write auto increment here as well, right? How we will do it? Okay, let me just revert it. Here we will write auto increment, and here we can write primary key, and the what we are assigning primary key to user ID. So this way also you can distribute your keywords to your table or constraints to the table, right? This will also the same. Sorry, I forgot to add the comma here. Let's try to execute it. It is successful. When I try to describe this table, users 8, what will happen? This will give you this again the same format. Either we apply primary key this way or we apply the primary key this way. Both will work the same way, right? So this is how auto increment work. Let's come back in the further tutorials to do more hands-on, and we'll proceed with the further tutorials.